Ah, and I got myself the blue version. Ooh, that's kind of weird blue version, by the way. So this game system, the R35S, comes with a 3500 milliamp battery, and we're going to have the configuration of 4 back buttons. So the overall, let's say, configuration is something that we have seen before. What I found quite interesting already, we're going to get 2 similar Nintendo Switch joysticks with a click. Select start with micro switch and an FN button or a function key. And what I don't really like already is that we're going to have 4 buttons here at the corner. The same for the D-pad. And the way I don't like this, because you need to cramp up your hands very strangely. Maybe due of my size of my hands, with smaller hands it's going to be more comfortable. At the left side we're finding the on and off switch, reset, and here we're having the second SD card. Oh. And this is not a real brand whatsoever. It's just basically a non-generic, and these things are pretty damn bad. I have seen them with game sticks and they get corrupted all the freaking time. But how is it with the software? So first of all, this is just a full version. In other words, there's all kinds of stuff that you can mess around with. But some cheap devices we had that are going to be locking it all down and there's nothing you can do about it. So here we have the emulator settings, scraper, advanced settings. If you want to mess around with it, if you have problems, you can always get into this and try to fix things yourself. Because take consideration, not everything will be perfect. In combination with even some options like brightness control can be switched here, but I'm going to put it on 100%. So when it is with the compatibility of the different systems, so this device is absolutely great. In combination with the piece of software we're going to see here, we're having all kinds of very cool devices. But when we're going to have the most struggles, it's going to be PlayStation Portable. And you know, N64, you know the same stuff that we have seen many times before. Dreamcast is a system that will have a hit or miss, but particularly I want to focus on all kinds of stuff. Getting into the games, seems to be that we don't have every single screenshot ready. But out of the box, there's still a lot of cool things you can do. Unfortunately, the naming is one freaking nightmare. Then we're going to get 2 Type-C connections. One will be for the charging, another one for the OTG port, and if you want to implement an extra controller, and the headphone jack out. And last but not least, the first SD card basically at the right side, and this is for the OS. So it comes pre-installed with an OS, but in the future maybe we can get some different one. But I recommend you, this is only 32 GB, and make backup of these cards and replace them with real brands, so you don't have any issues with getting corrupted cards. And this is a big issue with these things nowadays. Volume control, and that is something I find pretty damn cool, that we're having a physical volume control, but that is not with every single handheld nowadays. And then of course we're having the 4 back buttons. And I must say that they are basically in the same kind of position. So when you're holding the device itself, they don't feel very comfortable actually to press. And also when it comes to the overall quality, you need to press it very hard. So with some of the, let's say, Powkiddy devices where you can accidentally like press it, this is something you will not have with this particular product, but you need to press them very hard. And the positioning of them, if you're going to be playing, they are not comfortable at all. So yeah, I always need to complain about something, right? But out of the box, it comes with a piece of plastic in front of it. So let's remove that first. Ooh, and it is really glossy. And thinking to the certain angle, you can see we're having a bezel, but that one is not very big. I like that. But what are we going to have in the actual box itself? So, dust absorber, okay. Then we're going to get some wipes. We're going to have also the Type-C cable, a very nice long one. The toilet paper manual, that doesn't really explain anything at all. Let's see if we can unfold it. Can we freaking even unfold it? Yep, we can. This is actually what we're going to have for information. The RGB20S instruction, also called, so I'm guessing this is basically for 2 different devices. Okay, that's kind of pointless. And what's kind of cool, and I wish they implemented it from the factory, we do have an extra front glass. So that's kind of cool. So in other words, like if you want to have a screen protector, you're going to get a very thick one. So it's very nice. I'm going to implement it because I'm always messing these things up. But let's boot it up and let's... What are we going to see when it comes to the OS? Okay, booting up it will show the device that I'm actually holding in my hand. Okay, that's a quite interesting choice. Then we need to wait, I think we need to wait a couple of seconds. Hello? The LED says that it's powered on, but there is actually nothing happening over there. Oh yeah, it's always the first question. Did they mess it up? Or is actually nothing working? Oh, there we go. So it's running on ArcOS 2.0. And man, this thing takes freaking forever to boot up. After a minute or so, it will boot and start off with Emulation Station. So what you can see with the loading screen, that we do have a lot of different kind of emulators. I think that is very cool, because that gives you a deep dive into the old school era of the Atari, but also the DOS and all the other craziness. Oh! But between all of the function keys and joystick and D-pad, here we're going to find one single speaker. It's an interesting choice in my opinion. I'll give you, let's say, a look into how it sounds. But when you're looking at the quality, man, this sounds really nice. It's kind of interesting that they went for a mono speaker at the front, and this front facing, so the overall quality you're going to have and experience is so much different than having one at the bottom. But how is it with the overall quality of the display? This thing looks absolutely amazing. It's a great IPS panel that they slapped into the device itself. I did notice with mine, I do have a little bit of a quality issue. You can see the bezel at the front is sticking out, so that is a little bit of an annoying thing. But let's talk some specs. Let's get into the nerdy mode. So when it comes to the CPU, it's a ROG chip. The 3326, that's a quad-core ARM 64-bit Cortex A35 CPU that runs on 1.5 GHz, only 1 GB of RAM. That is actually DDR3L, 3.5 inches of a display. It is an IPS full viewing angle, and that's absolutely true, with a resolution of 640 by 480. Nevertheless, it has an option for Wi-Fi capabilities, 2.4 and 5 GHz, and when it comes to the games, there is so much to play. 3200 mAh will give you around 6 hours of game time. But let's take a close look also at the D-pad itself. But how does it play? So first of all, when you're looking at the way how it feels, it does have a very nice travel, very short in my opinion. But when you just press it, man, it has a lot of resistance. Alright, so let's see where we can have a great performance when it comes to finding games. Where I don't love the feel of this D-pad when it comes to how, let's say, it has a lot of resistance. The response of this thing is absolutely nuts. But let's start off with some PlayStation 1 emulation. These devices are absolutely great. And in combination with this amazing display and the resolution, the PlayStation game come absolutely to life. But when it comes to compatibility, here we're going to have, in my opinion, the first problem. I cannot really say that I am enjoying this game, because take consideration, you're going to need the back buttons a lot. And I don't find it really comfortable to play with these weird back buttons. You need to press them quite hard. And the positioning is also not great. So, oh man, my hands. Oh. Next up, let's take a close look at PlayStation Portable. So pressing both joystick will give you the option to get into, kind of cool shoe, that's new, getting into the settings, and here we can change out all kinds of things. Already has been set to framescaping #1, because these devices are not great in my opinion for PlayStation Portable emulation. Not only the resolution, and in my opinion the screen size is different of an original PSP, this is just not the way how you want to play in my opinion. We're going to be entering with the FPS counter on, so you can show you what's going on here. And Tekken 5 is one of those games that are not super demanding. You can see having a lot of frame drops throughout the game. But actually, when you're going to play some more less difficult emulation games like two-dimensional stuff, there we go to have great performance. But let's move on with a different system, and this is going to be the Super NES. do have the resistance. I need to press the D-pad quite hard to get around here in the playing field, but not to the point that it's going to be quite annoying. But I prefer to play with the joystick at this point. Oh yeah, let's crack up the volume. Let's start with Bug Bumble on the N64, a game that I've been, let's say, touch benching on a lot of different devices, and oh boy, yeah, the glitching is not a good start. But it got one of the best intros ever. Oh, that audio speaker. When it goes loud, but it sounds absolutely crap. When you're pressing it to the 90% on. Okay, this is a game that we're going to need every single freaking joystick. And navigation is going to be otherwise impossible. Take consideration that also with N64, if you just want to play this is not the right handheld for it. But I do have the overall experience, besides having a lot of glitching going on. It's not great in my opinion. So let's reset it and let's choose a different game. Another game system I wanted to check out is the Nintendo DS. And I'm just going to be honest, I really hate emulating this. And the reason why, because normally the experience of the Nintendo DS is having two displays. So we can switch very easily by pressing one of the back buttons, or we're getting the full screen over here. So it is actually a way to play, but one of the shenanigans you're going to have is having no touchscreen. And that is a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. But doesn't spoil the full fun. So let's get into some gameplay. And I will show you what you're going to be not missing out in my opinion. But so let's do a quick gameplay and I will show you what I particularly mean with not a great experience. So yeah, you can just play the game without any problems, but you always need to mess around with the screen. And if you just want to play, for example, you want to look at the map, you can very quickly switch. And that part I don't really like. But when it comes to the overall Nintendo DS performance, it does seem to be running just fine. So another thing I wanted to check out is Sega Dreamcast, but here we're going to push it to the limit in my opinion. I also noticed a lot of difference with the audio freaking level. But you can hear that it stutters. I cannot really enjoy the game like this. So what I was quite surprised with this device, that it is very easy to open up. Normally they're having a combination of screws and clicking mechanism in the inside, but that is not the case. So if you need to do some maintenance, for example if you want to replace the battery, you can do this fairly easy. So let's put it upside down so all of the screws will fall out. So here we're going to have a quick overview of how it actually works. The battery does have a little bit of heat over here, but it comes with the plug, so that's great. So you don't need to do a resoldering if you want to do some maintenance of replacing the battery itself. It doesn't say any brand or whatsoever. That's not most of the time the case with these devices, but it comes in a black packaging, where normally it's going to be some goldish, cooling looking or whatever. But it's kind of strange that they went for the situation that we're having a speaker in the middle. That is something you don't see very often. At the back we're going to find the 4 buttons, the 4 micro switches that will be connected over here. So there's actually nothing between it, it's just purely the plastic on the micro switches. And then there is no cooling on the chip itself. It seems to be that that's not really necessary. It's not hot at all. But here we're going to get ourselves the rock chip and the modules when it comes to the RAM. And here we see that we're having the LCD at the other side, which you can interchangeable. So if you need to do some maintenance or replace a speaker or an LCD display, that is actually possible. And if I'm saying it correctly, it seems to me that this thing even has a rumble motor in the inside, if I'm saying it correctly actually. But that is what we're going to have when it comes to the device itself in the inside. So if you want to do some, let's say, repairing, or you need to, let's say, swap the battery, this thing is very easy to repair.